I have a very special guest joining me today to go over some of the biggest stories in the news. To help me do that, I've brought on the CEO of Goya, a big fan of Donald Trump, Bob Unanue. Thank you so much for joining me, Bob.
Stephen, it's a great honor to be with you and with your audience. Thank you very much.
So I got to tell you, I have eaten a lot of Goya. I lived in Puerto Rico for 2 years. It's here in the supermarket in Utah. Whenever I'm making some kind of Hispanic dish, I always turn to Goya. So I love supporting a company that has great American values, family values. So I wanted to share that with you. I know you're a big fan of Donald Trump, and also someone who is trying to help educate the Hispanic community on conservative values, but more that they already have conservative values, that they're already family focused. And so I want to get into that. But the first time I became aware of you was a speech that you had given near Donald Trump about America, the American dream, speaking to Hispanic Americans. And then I witnessed AOC go on as many news stations as would allow her to just spew horrible, vile things about you, about Goya. She called for a nationwide boycott of your brand. She sought to personally destroy you and your company. Watching that in real time was disgusting. What was that like to have AOC and other Democrats trying to ruin you and your company simply because you liked the leadership of Donald Trump?
Well, Stephen, that was 4 years ago, July 9th, 2020. And it's I have grown to like and love Donald Trump because of his values and the person that he is. And I think he's been chosen, quite honestly, and I'll get into that, to bring our country closer to God. July 9th, 2020 was in the thick of COVID. And, we were an essential business, and we were told we could operate as an essential business. But work is essential. And like you talk about these values, the values of God, family, work. Work is very important, and prosperity is very important. We've been all blessed and chosen by God to be put on this earth to produce. And so working is part of that. When we're handed stuff by the government, it takes away the value of things. And quite honestly, it takes away our own value. So I wanted to reach out to Donald J. Trump back at that time. And I had somewhat done that earlier, but, and I felt the Trump administration wasn't reaching out correctly to the Latino population. So during COVID, I wanted to offer the country, through the chief executive, millions of pounds of food. I offered 2 million, which turned into 4.5 million pounds, because people were locking in, to their rooms and basically escaping from society. And I think that actually spread the disease more. And it was the lay down and die disease, COVID. You have to keep moving. I have a son who basically a doctor saved his life. I said, hey, get up and walk, move, so that your lungs expand and we're not, in this static position laying down. So I wanted to offer food. And then also at the same time, the person I was using to get closer to the president and reach out, they offered me a position as a commissioner, the White House Commission on Hispanic Prosperity. So July 9th was a formal meeting to inaugurate that commission, and there were a bunch of people, and I was given the opportunity to speak. And, I kind of speak off the cuff a lot. I hadn't really thought, of course I thought about it, but so I started talking. I think back to my grandfather, who was a builder, who came to this country in 1904 at 17 years old for opportunity, for prosperity. And my grandfather was a builder and an entrepreneur and looking for opportunity. And I related that to President Trump. And I have been with President Obama and Michelle Obama back also with Let's Move My Plate, which is another program for food and putting the pyramid into nutritional pyramid into portion control, which I'm not always that good at. But you know, and in the basic food groups. So I've worked with both administrations, and at this time they called me to be a commissioner. I said yes. I'm very concerned about Hispanic prosperity. I'm concerned about all prosperity. So and here I am talking, and all of a sudden I kind of back up and I say, at the same time, we're blessed. But that word blessed came onto my lips with the Holy Spirit. And by the Holy Spirit. And who would have thought that that word, which invokes God, it invokes goodness, and that we're all blessed. All human beings are blessed and chosen by God. And that I use, but my crime was to use blessed and Donald J. Trump in the same sentence. It's that caused a lot of people to be very upset with me. And it kind of launched, and Lara, I'm thinking of Lara Logan. I'm sorry, Laura Ingram.
Oh, on Fox.
Had me on the show, and she says, "Bob, you're going to apologize, right?" And I said, "You know, hell no, I'm not going to apologize. First, you apologize, and then you get fired." So
apologize for using the word blessed.
Yes, and Trump in the same present, and you know, she said, you know, Bob, you kind of sparked a little bit of this cancel culture, but it's not just a cancel culture. We're in a spiritual war. And Jose Marti, this Cuban poet, said there are people born to love and create, love and build, and others to hate and destroy. And that's what's happening. And I equated the President Trump to building and loving, valuing life, valuing each other. You know, we've become the society with the selfie based on ourselves. And also we look for all these identities out there because our identity comes from God. But when we place identity on other things, then we start inventing genders, and we start inventing letters, and we start inventing flags. There's even a MAP flag, a minor attracted person. So we start deflecting from what is God and what is good, and we go to things that are imperfect and not necessarily good. But there's no doubt in my mind that the evil is at work, and we're in a spiritual battle in this country. And that day, and my mug was on the TV for a couple of weeks, and I kind of got, you know, and they call earned media, where you get a lot of advertising for free. Not that it was that good, but got a ton of earned media. And you make plans. I could never have planned that. You make plans, and God laughs. And what happened after that, and I believe we're protected by the Holy Spirit, a boycott formed. A boycott where people started going out and buying our products instead of boycotting us. And we got a ton of support. And I believe it was the Holy Spirit that protected me, Donald Trump, the company, and a lot of things happened after that. I get into in a book I wrote, but fast forward to June 13th, 2024, when there's an assassination on President Trump. And of course, you look it up in Google and stuff, there's no assassination, it just disappeared. But God, I believe, moved his head in these. I mean, they knew about this guy an hour and a half before. There's pictures now out today where you can see the guy moving around on the roof in plain sight. And he looked at a image of illegal immigration, and at that moment turned his head to that bullet paralleled his head and just nicked him, and unfortunately killed Corey and killed gravely injured two other men. And you know, the fact that I see it looks like that was almost allowed to happen is a disgrace. And it just shows that the spiritual war love, build, hate, destroy. We want to destroy life. And that is what has happened. But the Holy Spirit, I think we are in a crossroads. We got to love and build or hate and destroy. And that's what has been happening on that one, since that one fateful day on July 9th.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you put it that way, because my wife and I say to our 3 children, do you want to be a builder or a wrecker? And if they're doing something that we don't appreciate, instead of coming down on them, we just say, hey, be a builder, be somebody that's building others up, that's contributing to the world, that's being creative. It's easy to judge. That's one of my favorite things about judging people. It's just so easy, right? But loving people, being tolerant is the hard part. Yeah, I agree with you. The Trump thing is a bit of a mystery. If you're not religious, you have to at least chalk it up to like the greatest luck of all time. And if you are religious, it's like, I mean, you're talking about turning your head like with a microsecond. It's crazy to even think about. Speaking of Donald Trump and other things close to you, I've read online that under President Joe Biden's leadership, over 100,000 children that have crossed into our country have gone missing. They don't know where they are. They're not looking for them. Trump has alluded that they have likely been killed or trafficked, yet the Biden-Harris administration doesn't seem to really care about doing anything. Many of those children are from Latin America. I know that this is a topic that you are passionate about. Do you think that Donald Trump will be able to slow or stop the human trafficking when he makes his advancements on shutting down the border? I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. If you Google yourself these days, you will likely find your private information on public listings. Data brokers are making money selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others that wish to target you. Recently, our best friends Googled themselves online. They found their cell phone info, home address, part of their social security number, and banking information. Cleaning up your information not only helps reduce the amount of spam you get, but it protects you from hackers who could use this information to help themselves access social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released onto the dark web. Let Aura handle this for you. You can try Aura free for 2 weeks using my link. It's easy to set up, and you don't have to download several different apps to get things like parental control, antivirus, VPN, password management, identity theft protection insurance, and more. With Aura, you get all of this for one affordable price. Stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Go to my sponsor, aura.com/Stephen, to get a 14-day free trial and see how much of your information is being sold. Again, that's aura.com/Stephen.
Absolutely. It's a big part. And basically, like the genie said to Aladdin, never drink from the cup of money or power. You'll never be satisfied. There's hundreds of billions of dollars in trafficking and drugs and power. We want to stay in power to control and keep ourselves running this country. Last April 26, 2023, Tara Lee wrote us, who was with ORR, Office of Refugee Resettlement, and part of HHS, which is under Javier Becerra, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Vice President Harris, and President Biden. She testified that the U.S. is the middleman in this incredible business of exploiting children and people. Of all people trafficked, 75% are women, 25% are children. And there's so much money in it. And the Latino is the biggest victim of this. So for VP Harris to say, I care about women. I care about children. I care about. She cares about herself and staying in power. And I don't know, I'm not the one saying it, but basically Tara Lee Rhoda said that they're complicit. At one point, Javier Becerra said, the Secretary of HHS, Health and Human Services, says, Henry Ford would be embarrassed by the inefficiency of bringing children into this country. And when she testified, it was 85,000. Like you're saying, it's over 100,000 or more. And these children are not just sold into sex and slavery. They're also, their body parts are sold, and it's very difficult to say this, and blood and things like that. And Jim Caviezel mentioned something like that because I was behind the movie Sound of Freedom. But QAnon and all this stuff about Jim saying, "Hey, things that evil, adrenochrome, where you scare a child and you take their blood, it's a horrible thing. It's not real. It is, and it's real throughout the history of the world. When we conquering people, but the business of this is the biggest business in the world: trafficking, drugs, arms sales, and yet they wanted the people to come in faster. Why? Because the cartels can't make all this money without countries, people allowing it to happen, and I think it's evil, and for them to deny, I said during the convention, Kamala, she's bad, but I wasn't trying to mock her. I was just saying what she's doing and what she's done is bad. Now I have a new word, which is, I don't know if anyone's used it, chameleon. She's changing her identity as if none of this ever happened, or she had no idea. She's rescued traffickers. Nonsense. The trafficking and all this exploded under the Biden-Harris administration. Under Trump, it wasn't there. So Trump gets back in, closes the border. The other thing is, we want prosperity, but we're taxed. We have to work more than half a day for someone else not to work or not to pay taxes. 59% of illegal immigrants in this country are on some type of subsidy or another. So, we've got to work for them to earn this stuff. And when President Trump talks about, I'm going to send people back, well, start there with people. There's always people in need, but you can't tell me that millions and millions of people, that more than a great part of this country and 150 people coming from 150 countries need our assistance. Yes, there's difficulties around the world, but we cannot afford. Communism works until you run out of other people's money to spend. We cannot afford to keep paying for people, able-bodied people, not to work. And it's not just that. It takes away your spirit. When COVID hit, telling people stay at home, don't get up. Children, the day is very long for a child. Children, don't get up, stay there, and the government will take care of you. That takes away our reason to get up every day. It takes away our spirit, and it takes away our value. And so this is a spiritual war of good and evil.
Yeah. When I went through a difficult phase in my own life and with my own business, I read a quote that really inspired me. It was, "Work will work when nothing else will work." just getting up, after a goal, after a project is, there's something about being in the creative mode. I don't know if it connects us to the creator or what it is, but anyway, I appreciate you saying that about the value of work. So you're the CEO of a major brand. What do you think about Donald Trump saying he wants to lower corporate taxes in order to give companies money to grow, expand, increase wages, do R&D, all while at the same time giving the United States the ability to compete on a global stage? There's so many countries out there that have significantly lower taxes as someone that runs a major corporation, what are your thoughts on that idea?
Yeah, I'm 70 years old. I started working. I worked Christmas and if you're allowed to say that anymore, and summers in the factory, and so I've been working for a long time. And we only work a half a day, just 10 hours. 12 hours. 12 hours a day. But when I was a kid, or when I actually got out of college in '77. I took a year over in Spain. I was making with the family $4 an hour. That's $8,000 a year. I paid taxes, and the tax rate in New Jersey at the time was like 1.4%. Now it's 10. I live in Texas. Now it's 0 for state income tax, but they have other taxes. We've increased taxes and taxes. We're taxing ourselves to death because, again, we're paying for 59% of illegals to have more benefits than we have. We're paying for so many able-bodied people to have things for doing nothing and really not needing them. I'm eligible for Social Security. I think I can get like $2,000 a month at this point, and I've worked, 50 years. But I'd rather be an illegal immigrant, to tell you the truth, where I can do much more than 2,000. I get my phone, which they use to track me, and they use to send messages, vote for Biden Harris, things like that. It's control, and they're following the people. So you have, for example, Venezuelan immigrants that come into Texas, and then they're up in Dallas. And by the way, and I have family associated with Venezuela, the Tren de Aragua, which is the MS-13 of Venezuela, and they're touting now Venezuela as the safest country in the world because they've exported their Tren de Aragua. They assaulted police officers in Times Square. They're killing people. They're along with all these other groups. And let me tell you, these kids, they turn them into monsters. And sometimes I was talking to this judge once and said, my first instinct is to say, what's the matter with you? But she says, what happened to you? And there's some value in that because everybody's born, I think, with a heart that is, and soul that's half dark, half light. And you've got to go toward the light. But when a child is said, hey, you got to kill somebody to be part of this gang, and then you get your teardrop on your, as a badge of that you've murdered somebody. We're turning these kids into monsters. Now, is the bigger monster the person that does it, or the child that receives it? At any rate, they can't be in society. But what they're doing is, and the colectivos in Venezuela and the Tren de Aragua and other countries are sending the worst out of 150 countries, and not just financially taking care of all these people, but then we're handing over this country. We're handing over our safety and prosperity. We're handing over the whole thing. This is a very existential election. If we don't move closer to God, if we don't get somebody in there that's strong, the Holy Spirit, it represents strength and courage. You have a president like President Trump who's courageous. We need that person. Today they released some prisoners, hostages in Russia, and we just traded. We're not showing strength; we're showing weakness, and that's why we're in these wars in Ukraine. That's why all heck is broke loose around the world, because we're so weak. We have to show courage. And going back to the original question, Donald J. Trump, it's courage. He cares about people. Yes, he doesn't want the rapists and murderers coming over, but that doesn't mean everybody's a rapist and murderers. Let's keep them out. If you're not coming to this country, I won't let you into my house. If you're coming into this country to do us harm, stay the heck away.
Yeah, no, I worry about what will happen to the country with 4 years of Harris, because her message was basically don't come. Do not come to the country. You know, do not show up for your free cell phone, your free
Don't come to the
money,
country.
your luxury hotel, which makes your house in Latin America look really bad. We'll just put you up for free. Do not come. It's like, oh my gosh, give me a break. Like, the incentive to come here, the payoff, if you can get in, it's easy and it's great, you know, but not, I mean, not for everybody. I mean, I really, really feel for the women and children coming up. I mean, like, you know, most of them are being violated in order to get into the country. Like, what a horrible way to start a new life. It's just heartbreaking.
Don't come to this country. We want to exploit you. We want to sell you, and we want your vote so that we can stay in power and exploit and abuse you. That's what their message is.
Yeah, yeah. In our final minutes together, tell me about your book, Blessed, Donald J. Trump and the Spiritual War. Why did you write it? What are we going to learn by reading it?
Well, yeah, it's Blessed, Donald J. Trump and the Spiritual War, and how we've got to move this country closer to God. And I do believe that he's been chosen to do that for the strength and courage and caring. To tell you the truth, I'm not a writer. I don't read a lot. I'm an accounting major, you know, and I didn't really had no plans to write a book, but you make plans and God laughs. And so some incredible people helped me put it together. And it talks about what happened on July 9th with the word blessed, where the Holy Spirit came in. I was asked to take rosaries over to the people of Ukraine by an incredible woman in San Antonio. We ended up taking 15,000 rosaries, and some ex-Green Berets got them into Ukraine. They ended up at 100,000. I was put behind the movie Sound of Freedom, which was Angel Studios lifted it up. There you go, with another, connection to God. And, I started Goya Cares. Goya Gives. We are always donating and giving food, but Cares is about human trafficking, caring for the children. Like you mentioned before, we need to care about the other person. We have a program called Pause. And part of it is you matter. You need to walk up to somebody and say, you matter. Because our children, it's all about mental health. We're not feeling valued. Kids are committing suicide. They don't feel valued. And all that you need to do is one kind word, you matter. And you say that to somebody, the kids can say that. I mean, it takes some courage to do that. But to somebody who's not that popular, whatever, say you matter, and you can save a life. And that's what, so God has given me a platform, I think, through this book to, which again, I'm not a writer, but to talk about the spiritual war, about loving God, loving each other as we love ourselves, reaching out, caring for each other, bringing strength and prosperity back to this country, saying that Donald J. Trump is going to be the person that will do it. The foreword was written by my now good friend, Dr. Ben Carson, who I met all these incredible people through, what happened on July 9th. And I worked with Dr. Carson on his ACI, American Cornerstone Institute. I'm with America First Policy Institute. All these great people about the values, God, family, work, and bringing prosperity, strength back to America so that we can help others. If we go in this existential election and we are the bastion of protection for the most vulnerable in the world, and the most vulnerable are coming to this country, and we're abusing them. Instead of being a country that protects our children, protects each other, we're abusing our administration, not not Democrats, not Republicans, not independents, not socialists. This administration, power and money, they're abusing our own children. And we have to go back to being a country that loves each other, that is strong and can protect. And that's why I say this is an existential election. And hopefully this book is coming out September 24th, sheds a little bit of light on that. I'm just an instrument for God. And when you're called, like it says in The Sound of Freedom, there's a scene where it says, when God calls, you cannot hesitate.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. I loved that movie. I was able to interview Jose, the director on that, and very, very cool.
Alejandro Monteverde.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And Eduardo Verástegui, Jim Caviezel,
Yeah.
Bill Camp, who played El Vampiro, the vampire, he saves young children. And he makes the comment, you know, when God tells you what to do, you cannot hesitate. Wonderful movie.
Yeah, it is. I have these I have these hats in my background, but most people don't maybe even know why, because my channel has grown so much. But during COVID, I would do my news broadcast about what was going on with the government and the virus and the lockdown and everything. And then as soon as I would hit end, I would get hundreds of emails from Americans around the country saying how scared they were. They worried they might die. They were out of money. They needed a stimulus check. They didn't know how to get unemployment. And I became very overwhelmed by so many people telling me that they were going to commit suicide. I didn't know how to handle it. And I didn't have the money or the time or the bandwidth to spend with people or on people. And so I've always just tried to run a very truthful and helpful show. But at the end of each show, I try to remind people that they are amazing and to never forget that. So that's one way that I've tried to just remind people to believe in themselves and to keep going. Well, I'm excited for the new book to come out. I'm going to put a direct link down below for pre-orders. Bob, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks for everything you do with Goya, employing thousands of people, helping with, hundreds of thousands of pounds of food. You're a blessing to America and to your community. And I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Well, you're a blessing, and the hashtag amazing too. And, in the Bible, it says 365 times, be not afraid, encourage. And I think we are all being called in this endeavor, and it's not just an election, it's the future of this country. And thank you for your voice to the millions of people that you reach, and God bless you.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too, Stephen. God bless.